Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and I'm here to review Netflix's new original animated film, Charming. And this is from director Ross Veneker, who also wrote the film and had worked on The Tick Show, and this film is about Prince Charming. And it turns out Prince Charming was actually cursed. And by this witch, voiced by Nia Vardalos from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And this witch puts this curse on Charming so that every woman falls in love with him, which means that he can never just have that one woman that he can finally marry and just be happy with. And I think this was the most interesting aspect of this film is that idea. And I'm like, okay, that could be done in an interesting way. Not necessarily done in an interesting way. The film still relies so much on cliches and stereotypes, even down to a bunch of indigenous people, women who are giants, and basically like ripping off aspects of like Futurama. If you've ever seen the Death by Snook Snook episode of Futurama, but like, and they're cannibals, and it's just like, are you kidding me? So you're leaning into all those different kinds of things, and they have really low-hanging fruit kind of jokes at the expense of like some of the trauma. There are a few clever jokes throughout the film, kind of turning some of those stereotypes on its head, about like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. So some of those things work. Got a few laughs. But in general, this film feels kind of blah. And it really relies upon musical numbers and which makes sense for who they wound up having voicing these characters. Because you do have, like, the animation kind of looks like Shrek, except, you know, Shrek's almost 20 years old. So, But the music feels very relevant, like, it feels like modern day pop music. You have like a sequence sung by like some of the voices who voice these princesses. It's like Ashley Tisdale and Avril Lavigne and GEM. Don't know who that is, but they voice the different princesses and they have a musical number. You have Sia, who plays this like cannibal oracle, odd, and performs a very Sia song. And so it's like very stereotypical different kinds of pop music that you've heard. And it gives the film some energy. I'm not going to say this is like awful, and like I've seen some animated movies that just made me mad because how stupid they were and how lowbrow they were. This film just kind of feels really overly safe, especially when you're trying to rethink classic fairy tales, and yet you still lean heavily in because, well, you do have Charming and you have a protagonist who's a young commoner. And she's voiced by Demi Lovato. And Demi Lovato, of course, gets some time to sing as well. And you have this film and you have these vocal performances, and it goes beat by beat. You know exactly how this is going to turn out. And there's no surprises. And that's unfortunate because you had interesting concept here. You even throw in like John Cleese. Somebody watched Monty Python perform like a holy grail. Like, I want John Cleese in my movie about like fairy tales and stuff like that, which Shrek already did because he was the king in that. He played a fairy godmother in this one and did one of his, like, you know how Monty Python, all of them were in drag at some point playing women, and just did that voice and then played another character. And in general, this film is kind of forgettable, and that disappointed me a little bit. Because it does have, like, I didn't have huge expectations going into a Netflix original animated film. Not everything's over the moon, which really surprised me. So, in the end, I think kids will enjoy this. I think this is fine hour and 25 minutes to enjoy with your family. But if you're, like, sitting down really wanting to enjoy a cinematic, animated experience, go watch Soul. It's on Disney+. Shameless plugs for a different movie in this review, but in the end, those are my thoughts on Charming. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.